The hostess barely glanced up when she walked in. Rain clung to her coat, and her natural curls, still damp, brushed her cheeks as she stepped inside the upscale restaurant in downtown Chicago. She glanced around at the gleaming wine glasses, the polished cutlery, the sharply dressed guests. A waiter passed by her twice, ignoring her completely. Finally, she approached the front desk herself. "Excuse me," she said softly. "I have a reservation for one." The hostess blinked, then scanned her from top to bottom. Her plain black sneakers, the absence of makeup, the unbranded handbag. "I'm sorry," the hostess said flatly. "We're fully booked tonight." The woman didn't argue. She simply pulled out her phone and tapped once. Moments later, the manager appeared, confused, slightly panicked. He rushed to the desk. "Is there a problem?" he asked the woman. She smiled. "No, just here to dine." The hostess looked bewildered. The manager glanced between them and whispered something into his earpiece. A waiter was summoned reluctantly. When she finally sat, it took 17 minutes before anyone brought her a menu.
If you believe stories like this need to be heard, hit subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss a moment that matters.
Another 10 before someone offered water. When she placed her order, the waiter sighed like it was a chore, but she didn't complain. She just watched, took notes, and waited, because tonight wasn't just dinner. This wasn't just a guest. She was someone who could make or break the entire restaurant, and no one had any idea. 3 days earlier, Camille Harris sat in a quiet office in Midtown, sipping lukewarm coffee from a paper cup. On her desk, 4 complaint letters, 2 from Yelp, 1 forwarded from the city council, and 1 hand-delivered by a former employee who had left in tears. She stared at the name printed at the top of each report: Maison de Lune, West Loop location, a restaurant praised for its French cuisine, but whispered about for something else. Something uglier: discrimination, classism, entitlement masked as elegance. Camille wasn't just any guest. She was a senior compliance officer for the city's Hospitality Ethics Division, a government-backed task force quietly created to investigate restaurants that practiced selective service, racial profiling, or appearance-based neglect. Her job wasn't just to take reports. Her job was to show up, unannounced, alone, and unnoticed. That's why she hadn't worn her heels. That's why the sleek city-issued car dropped her off a block away. That's why she didn't carry a badge or business card. She needed them to treat her like anyone else who didn't look like they belonged, because only then could she see the truth. But she wasn't prepared for what she'd feel: the stares, the silence, the weight of being invisible in a room full of people. She had read the complaints cold and typed, but now she was living them, and the worst was yet to come. Because the waiter assigned to her table, he wasn't just rude. He was about to say something no employee should ever say to a guest, and that moment would seal their fate. Camille sits quietly, observing, while the waiter continues to treat her with thinly veiled contempt, rolling his eyes, forgetting items, and taking other tables' orders before hers, even those who arrived later. She overhears nearby staff whispering and snickering, one saying, "She's clearly not our kind of guest." Unaware she can hear them. A couple at the next table glances at her with pity. A kind older woman gently says, "You don't deserve this," confirming Camille isn't imagining it. The final straw comes when Camille politely asks for the manager, and the waiter snaps. "Look, if you can't afford this place, maybe try somewhere that serves chicken buckets." Gasps ripple through the nearby tables. Camille says nothing, at first, but she pulls out her phone, opens an official-looking app, sends a message. Within minutes, 2 sharply dressed individuals walk in, clipboard in hand, cameras tucked in their bags. The manager's face turns pale. Guests whisper, staff freeze. Camille finally stands and says quietly, "My name is Camille Harris. I'm with the City Ethics Division. This location is now under active investigation for service discrimination and class-based profiling." The entire restaurant falls silent as Camille presents her credentials. The waiter who insulted her stutters, trying to explain, But Camille calmly turns to the manager. She lists the violations she personally experienced: delayed service, verbal disrespect, refusal of seating, and discriminatory comments, all of which were caught on the restaurant's own surveillance system and witnessed by undercover auditors now present in the dining room. The manager begs for understanding, claiming it was a misunderstanding, that they treat all customers equally. Camille responds firmly, "Your equal treatment only began after my identity was revealed. That's not equality, that's damage control." As the tension peaks, one of the auditors begins interviewing nearby guests. Several confirm the behavior was consistent and not a one-time slip. Camille then turns to the room and says, "This isn't just about me. This is about every guest who walked in here and was treated like they didn't belong." That ends today. By the end of the night, the restaurant is formally cited. The staff involved are placed on immediate leave, and Camille's visit makes quiet waves in the industry, exposing one of the city's top-rated establishments for its hidden culture of exclusion. 3 weeks later, the sign on the front of Maison de Lune was gone. In its place, brown paper over the windows and a note that read, "Closed for internal restructuring." But the truth? The city had suspended the restaurant's license indefinitely pending a full investigation. Word had spread quietly but swiftly through the local press, hospitality forums, and food blogs. Without fanfare, without scandal, just truth backed by quiet accountability. Camille sat in her office again, this time reading something different. A letter, not a complaint, but a thank you. It was from a young black woman who had once applied for a hostess job at that same restaurant, and was told, "We already have enough diversity." She'd filed a report, and thought it was ignored, until now. Camille smiled as she folded the letter. She hadn't set out to shut the place down. She'd hoped for better training, better policies, and sincere change. But sometimes, the foundation was too rotten to repair. What mattered most was the message sent, that no matter how elegant the lighting, no matter how expensive the wine list, no matter how perfect the plating, if your service lacks humanity, your doors will eventually close. And for every guest who had once felt invisible in that room, Camille had made them seen.